What if Ahsoka joined Vader after Revenge of the Sith? Our story begins on a cold, snowy moon in front of a crashed Republic Venator, as Darth Vader looks upon the many helmets of fallen clone troopers. Vader came to this planet upon hearing that the location of Ahsoka's Venator from her final mission during the war was discovered here, and under the snow, Vader would find her twin blades. Vader immediately knew Ahsoka was still alive, somewhere out in the galaxy, and this gave him a bit of hope. This wasn't a feeling Vader recognized anymore after many months inside of the suit, and he knew he would have to pursue this hope. It was not hope like he may have had once as a Jedi, this was hope for revenge, as all Vader wanted in this life was to get revenge on the entire galaxy for taking everything from him, and to get revenge on Darth Sidious for pushing him into this life. He had nothing else to live for, aside from revenge and power, and Vader knew he could convince Ahsoka to help him. And as the days passed on, Vader would allow more and more of Anakin to die, but part of Anakin still clung to Vader. He told himself that Anakin died on Coruscant in the temple, but he knew, deep down, if he'd won on Mustafar, then he would be seated on the Coruscant throne with his wife and child by his side. But instead, Palpatine's grand plan could not have gone more perfectly for him. Vader filled the void where he once held his emotions with power. He married himself to the dark side of the Force, and with Ahsoka, the apprentice of Skywalker, they could kill the Emperor. So Darth Vader would begin to watch reports filed from the Inquisitors for any possible signs of one of them discovering Ahsoka. Every report was combed over extremely carefully, and for months, there was nothing. Ahsoka was well hidden. This was of no surprise. But finally, the report Vader had been waiting for came in. Far out in the galaxy, on the small planet of Rada, a boy filed a report to the Empire, claiming that there was a Jedi hiding amongst them. The Jedi was described as a young Togruta woman, with orange skin and white and blue head tails. Vader saw this and immediately knew it had to be her, but he could not let the Emperor know that he was going to find her. So Vader waited until an Inquisitor was deployed, and he would secretly follow them there. Sometime later, the sixth brother waited nervously as he was kneeling in front of the Emperor himself. The sixth brother was being sent to Rada, but Palpatine was just staring out of the window for many long minutes. And eventually, Palpatine turned and told the Inquisitor that he senses a disturbance in the Force. This Jedi is of great significance to the Empire, and Palpatine told the Inquisitor to bring an Imperial probe droid on the mission. Deploy the droid, but have it be completely hidden while recording the Rada events. Palpatine said he needs complete confirmation that Ahsoka is killed. The Inquisitor thought this was unusual, but he wouldn't dare argue with the Emperor, so before long he took off to Rada with a probe droid, ready to do whatever must be done, and within hours, the Inquisitor emerged from hyperspace and descended into the planet. But only seconds later, the ship that belonged to Vader emerged from hyperspace and secretly followed this Inquisitor down into the planet, with bits of Anakin tugging at his mind that Vader tried to push back down. Around 1 hour later, Ahsoka Tano was returning from doing some harvesting far away from the camp and the people she was staying with when she heard the distant sounds of screaming, and she saw smoke blooming up from where she was staying. Rada was a farming planet, and Ahsoka now began running through the tall grass until she came upon someone with a red lightsaber, holding the blade to the people Ahsoka had been staying with. One of them had called the Empire on her, and Ahsoka knew she was going to have to fight this thing, but she had no lightsabers. The task was going to be difficult, but as she approached the Inquisitor, he was suddenly lifted off of his feet, grasping at his throat, before a red blade was plunged through his spine. The Inquisitor was thrown away, and in his place now stood Darth Vader. This man was completely unrecognizable to Ahsoka, aside from a distant feeling in the Force, and Vader, through his mechanical breathing, told Ahsoka Tano to come with him, and he used a wave of his hand to put out the fires surrounding the citizens as a sort of show of good faith. Ahsoka assured everyone that they will be safe, and she followed this masked man through the grass and back to his ship. When they were alone, Ahsoka asked who he is and what he wants, and Vader said he needs her help to kill the Emperor, and he then reached up, slowly removing his mask, and despite the burns, scars, and deformities, Ahsoka immediately recognized her former master and friend. She didn't have any words, she could only say his name. Anakin. She slowly moved towards him, reaching up to put a hand on his heavily burned face, and Vader turned away, trying not to let the moment actually consume him, and Ahsoka asked what happened to him. And now Vader began to unravel his many lies to her. Vader said it all happened so fast. The day the Jedi and the Republic fell, he and Mace Windu went to confront Palpatine upon discovering that he was the Sith Lord, Darth Sidious, but he was more powerful than they expected. He killed Master Windu and then defeated Anakin before taking him as a prisoner. Vader then said that Sidious went to the Jedi Temple after using Order 66 to turn all of the clones against the Jedi, and the entire Jedi Temple was slaughtered by Sidious, even the younglings. Ahsoka felt sick. She knew all of the Jedi were killed, but hearing how it actually happened just cut so much deeper, and she told Vader to continue. Vader said that after all of the Jedi were killed, Anakin broke free of the imprisonment, and he caught Padme being loaded onto a ship to be taken somewhere by Sidious. Unfortunately, Sidious once more defeated Anakin. This time, he blasted Anakin with constant lightning until Anakin was so burned that he now looked like this, and the only thing now keeping him alive is this suit. Ahsoka didn't understand. She was at Padme's funeral, but Vader said it was a body double created to convince the galaxy and convince Vader that she is dead. She is actually alive to be with their child until they are ready to be trained as Sith. Ahsoka shook her head. Why is he using this red blade? Why does he feel so dark in the Force? And Vader sighed heavily before saying that he made a choice. He knew Padme was alive somewhere in the galaxy, and the only way to survive and eventually find her and their child was to surrender to Sidious, pretend to become the Sith apprentice he's been grooming him to be, and in time, he plans to destroy Sidious and find his family. All of this was so much to take in for Ahsoka. She looked back into Anakin's yellow eyes, and she could see how much darkness has already taken from him. And so, Vader reached out his hand, asking her to join him. Together they can destroy the Emperor, they can find Padme and the child, and they can bring peace back to the galaxy. Vader said he cannot do this alone. He needs her. And Ahsoka, who thought Anakin was dead and who blamed herself for Anakin's death, was not thinking clearly. She allowed herself to believe that Vader was telling the truth, that he was not the one who executed Order 66, that Padme was still alive somewhere. Vader knew Ahsoka would never join him if she knew the real truth, and Ahsoka was not letting herself see the truth. So, she reached out. She grabbed Vader's mechanical hand, and she told him that they will do this together. And so they left Rada in Vader's ship. But as they did, the hidden probe droid that the Inquisitor deployed was recording them, and far away on Coruscant, Darth Sidious watched through the probe droid with glee. Vader was gifting him his next apprentice. And for the next year, the galaxy would whisper rumors of Vader's relentless campaigns, planets bent into submission by the black figure in the mask. But far from the front lines, hidden beneath the volcanic shadows of Mustafar, Ahsoka Tano was training. She was out of sight, off any records, and unknown to the Emperor, or so she thought. Her quarters were buried deep beneath Vader's castle. The air was thick with ash, and the molten rivers beyond her windows cast an orange glow across the dark stone walls. She felt like a ghost, existing on the edge of life and death, and somehow, it all felt fitting. Vader visited often, and they both agreed that this secrecy of her life was necessary. Ahsoka didn't question it. Her loyalty to Anakin and to Padme was unwavering. She knew that together, the two of them could save her. Their training began the way it always had, with duels, agility drills, but it quickly would twist into something more. Vader was introducing new techniques that were brutal, efficient, unrelenting, forms that bent the will of the Force, saying that the Jedi taught her restraint, but the Sith fear her unleashing her power. That's why they tried to kill all the Jedi. They knew how powerful they could become if they embraced these emotions. At first, Ahsoka resisted, but Vader knew how to press her. He told her that the Sith burned the temple, Sidious slaughtered the children, the younglings, that Anakin tried to stop him, but he failed, body charred and broken as punishment because he was not strong enough. He told Ahsoka that the two of them do not need to be afraid of the dark side. They must learn to use it, to control it to defeat the Sith. Each session, he fed her just a little more rage, a little more grief, and when she channeled that emotion, even for a second, she would hit much harder, move much faster. She saw the approval, even if it was small. And yet, in the training duels, she could never truly beat Vader. Every duel ended the same. Her body bruised, sabers on the ground, and Vader would stand over her, still and cold, mask staring through her. And in those moments, she hated him for a heartbeat, hated the distance, the pain, the feeling of this defeat. And then Vader would offer a hand and say with a rare softness that she is so close. There were moments in training when Ahsoka would wonder if all of this was a lie, and more than once, she made Anakin swear to her that everything he told her was true. And every time, without hesitation, Vader would swear that it's true. And beneath all the darkness, she could feel something, a warmth that was buried beneath Vader. Sometimes, when they weren't training, They'd walk the halls in silence, but she would ask him what Padme was like before the war. Vader would talk about Naboo, sometimes even about Tatooine, about his mother, and it was these moments that Ahsoka was convinced that Anakin was still there, that he was controlling the darkness as a Jedi deep down. She missed Anakin, the one she believed still existed, hidden behind the mask, and she told herself if she helps Padme, she can bring him back for good. But it was all a lie, and as months passed, the training would turn colder, more aggressive, less talk, more fighting. Ahsoka's eyes burned more often than not. She meditated even less, and sometimes, when she looked in the mirror, she didn't recognize the woman with the sunken eyes and clenched jaw staring back at her. And yet she kept going. She couldn't stop. The darkness was an addiction. One day, after a training duel where Vader had nearly broken her arm, she snapped, growling that she's not getting any stronger. She'll never be able to help him defeat Sidious. Vader paused. He looked at her for a long time, then told her she is powerful, but power without purpose is uncontrolled chaos. She needs a focus. Ahsoka looked up at him, telling Vader to give her something to fight for, but Vader instead told her to search her feelings and give herself someone to hate. She stared at the ground, breathing heavily, searching. The silence lingered, and for a moment, Ahsoka wanted to tell Vader that it's him that she hates, but she let that go, and slowly, like a wound reopening, Ahsoka's mind drifted backward, through the war, the trials, the temple. Her face hardened until she said the name, Barriss Offee. She whispered it, before saying that she turned the Order against her. She ruined everything. Vader turned his back to her, walking toward the shadows, saying that she must find Barriss, and then Ahsoka will find her true power. And over the next 3 months, Ahsoka was like a shadow in the galaxy. Her search for Barriss dragged her across star systems, through ruined temples, refugee convoys, and the trail was faint, buried in hearsay and half-truths. But the pattern was clear. Someone was out there helping people. Someone with power. Someone who shouldn't exist any longer. Her first real lead came on Iriadu, where whispers among displaced civilians spoke of a healer who'd appeared in the aftermath of a pirate raid. Survivors spoke of injuries healed without technology, and of a cloaked woman who vanished before the Imperials arrived. Ahsoka followed the smoke and silence left in this woman's wake, and as she pursued those whispers, her methods sharpened. She didn't ask questions anymore, she demanded answers. At checkpoints and spaceports, she didn't plead for access, she ripped it from weak minds with the Force. She didn't wait for people to cooperate. If they stalled, she made them afraid to resist. Her next clue came from a pair of smugglers on Pantora, where a sickness had ravaged a mining colony. Ahsoka found one of the smugglers holed up in a cantina, laughing about a miracle woman who saved his crew. She cornered him in an alley, dragged the truth out of his mind with a brutal grip on his memories, and left him barely conscious. What began as a mission rooted in loyalty was now soaked in anger. She told herself she was doing this for Anakin, for Padme, for justice, but her mind was darkening. Dreams haunted by faces she used to know, and they all looked at her like they no longer recognized her. Some nights, she woke up gasping for air, hands shaking from violence, but she had to do this. She knew the galaxy was relying on her. Finally, her trail led her to a jungle moon in the mid-rim, called Zerul, a humid, tangled world of overgrown ruins and teeming wildlife. Star maps barely even knew it, but the Force pulsed strangely here. Locals whispered of a ghost woman in the jungle, a hermit or a healer. The Force pulled at Ahsoka. It was taunting her, it was resisting, it was a warning, but she ignored it. And when she was sure that it was Barriss deep in the jungle, Ahsoka contacted Vader, and Vader would make his way to Zerul. He wanted to witness Ahsoka dealing with Barriss before he was sure they were ready to confront the Emperor. And when Vader arrived, the Master and Apprentice moved towards the jungle, only to find 2 separate paths. And so the 2 of them would split up in the jungle. Vader took one path, and Ahsoka took the other. And deep in the jungle, inside a small hut between ancient stone pillars, overtaken by roots, Barriss Offee knelt on a moss-covered floor, eyes closed, hands resting gently on the ground. The Force shimmered around her as she felt them both. One presence like a wildfire barely controlled, the other was colder and monstrous. Her breath steadied as she reached outward, past the clearing, past the trees, until she touched the minds of the jungle's most fearsome predators. Barriss was using the Force power beast control, and soon, the Virmox would come to her willingly, their primal instincts folding into her control. Around 100 Virmox, or as others called them on different planets such as primates or gorillas, were under her command as she sent them out towards the Dark Lord. Darth Vader was carving through the jungle without hesitation. Birds scattered ahead of him. Creatures burrowed into the ground at his passing. The dark side coiled tightly around him, pushing back the wilderness of the jungle as though the planet itself dared not to challenge him. But soon a tremor rumbled through the earth beneath his boots, and from the trees, from the cliffs, from the darkness they all came at him. 100 Virmox. Massive, fur-covered beasts. They circled around him, their minds bound to a will beyond their own, and Vader was surrounded. Strangely enough, his mind drifted back to an old debate among the children of the Jedi Temple. They often wondered, could 100 regular humans defeat even one of these gorilla creatures? And Vader ignited his blade, knowing today he would need to kill 100 of them himself. On the other trail, Ahsoka moved through the final stretch of the jungle. She could feel Barriss ahead, a presence that glowed with infuriating serenity. It only deepened her anger. How dare she find peace after ruining her life? The trees parted to reveal a clearing, and there she stood, draped in simple robes, arms open, face still. The moment their eyes met, something inside Ahsoka seemed to shatter. The past slammed in her like a wave. Her two red sabers immediately ignited, and she readied herself to fight Barriss. Elsewhere, deep in the jungle, would explode with chaos. Vader moved like a force of nature as the Virmox attacked in coordinated bursts, launching from trees, pounding the ground surrounding him from every angle. One struck from behind, massive fists hammering against his armor. Vader staggered, then twisted, lifting the beast effortlessly into the air and slamming it into the earth with a loud crack. Another leapt at his face, claws outstretched, only to be caught mid-air and torn in two. Vader's saber cut through the trees, and the force exploded from his fists, breaking spines, sending beasts flying into the trees. And for every one that fell, more seemed to take its place. Back in the clearing, Ahsoka struck and Barriss ducked the first strike, sidestepping the second, her hands never once touching her saber. She refused to fight, even as Ahsoka pressed harder and faster. Each swing was laced with years of anger. Barriss's expression was full of sorrow. She tried to reach Ahsoka with understanding, and it only enraged Ahsoka more. She struck harder, faster. Her eyes were glowing faintly yellow. Her breath was ragged. The dark side wrapped around her. Back in the jungle, Vader was kneeling as he used the dark side of the Force to hide his pain. His cape was torn, armor dented and sparking, and around him, bodies lay broken in heaps. The last Virmox charged with a roar, leaping from a fallen tree. Vader caught it mid-flight with a choking grip and drove his saber straight through its chest. A violent current suddenly pulled at Vader. Ahsoka. He turned, following the dark pull. Back in the clearing, Ahsoka finally broke through Barriss's defenses. With a violent burst of power, she hurled Barriss across the field, slamming her against the base of a stone wall. Barriss rose slowly, bloodied but not afraid. Her eyes were full of compassion. Ahsoka screamed, leapt, and brought her sabers down on Barriss. Barriss fell to her knees. She didn't defend herself anymore, and with one final surge of power, Ahsoka lifted Barriss into the air, choking her, breaking her, and Vader emerged from the trees just in time to witness it. Ahsoka wrapped in darkness, body trembling with rage and with power, hand outstretched, fingers curled as Barriss gasped for air, and Vader looked upon his apprentice, his last tether to the Jedi, to the light, to Anakin, and saw a reflection of himself when he turned. There was pride in him, a dark satisfaction. She was powerful, terrifying, everything he said she needed to be, but beneath the pride was something else. It was a slow ache, guilt, a whisper that maybe this was not victory but a loss. The part of Anakin that remained was in deep pain, watching what Ahsoka has become. But once more Vader hid that feeling away as Ahsoka finished it, and Barriss fell dead. The days that followed were consumed by silence and strategy. On Mustafar, Ahsoka and Vader laid out the final steps of their long and secret journey. Vader watched Ahsoka with a distant weight in his chest. He never said it, but something in him shifted when he saw her crush the light from Barriss. He'd wanted a powerful apprentice, someone to help destroy the Emperor, and now he had her. But instead of satisfaction, there was an emptiness gnawing at him. But still he hid it away. It was time to kill the Emperor, and the opportunity would come through the Inquisitor network. Vader manipulated one of them to file a false report, claiming that Yoda had been spotted on Endor, a planet of great importance to the Empire. Sidious took the bait. He left Coruscant personally, shuttle streaking toward the forest moon, away from his throne, away from his safeguards. It was the opening that Vader and Ahsoka had been waiting for. And as Sidious's shuttle entered Endor's orbit, the two of them stood on a nearby cliff. Together, side by side as master and apprentice, they latched onto the Emperor's ship as it descended. The shuttle shuddered in the sky, engines sparking as the Force crushed its wings inward. The ship spiraled down in a blaze of fire, crashing into the far trees with a huge explosion. The time had come. Sidious was alone and wounded. Ahsoka and Vader moved cautiously through the smoke, and the wreckage was still burning in parts, but no movement came from within. Ahsoka's breath was steady, but the Force pulsed with warning. And suddenly, a flash of blue carved through the smoke, striking both of them from behind. Ahsoka screamed as her body seized, and Vader's suit convulsed violently. His limbs jolted with the impact, before he collapsed to one knee. Circuits in his chestplate were popping and sparking as the lightning overwhelmed him. From the trees emerged the Emperor, untouched by the fire around him. He called Vader a fool for thinking he would not see this coming. He's been waiting for this since the day Vader recruited Ahsoka on Rada. His fingers curled again, and lightning poured into Vader once more, forcing him to the ground. Sidious turned to Ahsoka. Her heart pounded as she told Sidious he will pay for everything he's done. Sidious gave a fake, sad frown, telling Ahsoka that he really couldn't have done it without Anakin. He was vital to the destruction of the Jedi, the Temple, the younglings. All of it was done thanks to him. Sidious feigned surprise as Ahsoka realized the truth, saying he thought Vader would have told her the truth since they're so close. Ahsoka's heart pounded. Her body trembled as her vision blurred from the lightning. But Sidious wasn't finished. "And Padme?" he asked softly, almost like a ghost in her ear. "She's not being kept prisoner as much as he wishes it were so. Anakin killed her," Sidious sneered, "with his own hands on Mustafar." Sidious then reached into his robe, pulling something small from within, a simple small necklace, slightly scorched and tarnished by time. He tossed it at her feet, and it clinked softly against the ground. He told Ahsoka to use it, see the truth for herself. Ahsoka could use psychometry to see memories from objects, and as her fingers closed around the necklace that Padme wore, the Force surged violently through her. Visions, memories, pain. She saw Mustafar. She saw Padme gasping for breath, tears on her face. She saw Anakin choking her in his rage before she fell to the ground unconscious. Ahsoka collapsed, clutching the necklace, her breath catching in her throat. Her loyalty was built on a lie, and Vader, half conscious beneath Sidious's storm of power, sensed her breaking. In that moment, stripped of everything, armor failing, apprentice shattered, he found something inside of himself. Pure desperation, and with the last ounce of his strength, he tore his arm free from the ground, hurling his lightsaber across the clearing. It spun through the air, and with a flash of red energy, it severed both of Sidious's hands. The lightning stopped. The Emperor screamed in anger and in pain. Vader rose, sparks flaring from his damaged limbs, mask cracked and hissing, breathing ragged. He marched toward Sidious with slow, deadly steps, summoning his saber back to his hand, igniting it once more. The red blade cast a glow across Sidious's kneeling form. Vader raised it high, ready to end this once and for all. But before Vader could swing down to kill Sidious, Ahsoka's twin blades pierced through his back, crossing inside of his chest. Vader's body jerked forward, and the blade he held dropped from his fingers. A scream escaped his mask as he fell to the ground. Sidious's scream of agony twisted into laughter, and he told Ahsoka she has done well, and she is ready. Come to him, rise as his new apprentice. But he didn't finish. Ahsoka turned, and the dark side exploded from her as she drove both lightsabers now into his chest, and Darth Sidious would die as Ahsoka screamed out in rage. Her blades hissed as she deactivated them, leaving the jungle silent, except for the labored wheezing of a dying man behind her. Vader was sprawled out on the ground, the twin burns in his back smoked softly where her blades had gone through. He couldn't move. He could barely breathe, but his gaze was fixed on her. She stepped toward him slowly. There was no more rage in her eyes. No more hate. She let all of it out, and she stood above him. This was the man who trained her, the one who told her to be strong, the one who promised to protect her, and then spend years twisting her into a weapon for his own revenge. She could feel it, the dark side still whispering to her, offering her more power and revenge, the same thing it always offered to him. But she understood now, he was never strong enough to walk away from it. She was. So she let it go. Ahsoka would turn her back to him, not saying another word, stepping away from the monster, from this war, from everything. She didn't look back. Vader lay still, vision narrowing, and the last thing he saw through his cracked red lenses of his mask was her walking away, just as she has once done at the Jedi Temple so many lifetimes ago. Only this time, he knew she wasn't leaving out of disappointment. She was leaving because she was free, and Vader would take his final breath. After the death of the Emperor, the Empire would begin to collapse in upon itself. The Jedi would begin to re-emerge with the death of Vader, and soon, on Yavin 4, Ahsoka would find Obi-Wan Kenobi again, and it was here that the two of them would train Luke and Leia Skywalker. Over the years, the rebellion grew stronger. Entire sectors broke free from Imperial control. Without Sidious's manipulations, the Inquisitors fell away. The Empire fractured and buckled, and when Coruscant itself was finally liberated, it marked the beginning of a new age. The Republic was reborn, and in the heart of this new Republic, the Jedi returned as guardians of peace. Under Ahsoka and Obi-Wan's guidance, the new Jedi were not bound to temples or to politics. They were spread throughout the galaxy, and for the first time in years, the Jedi were not defined by what they lost. They were defined by what they choose to become. And folks, that is our story for today. One I enjoyed quite a lot. One I enjoyed, Vader fighting the gorilla. It was kind of fun scene. Anyways, do subscribe to the channel if you want to, and if you don't, do it anyway. Hit the like button, the bell, I don't know, all the YouTube stuff. Appreciate you guys checking this one out. Yeah, I guess I don't really have much to say. It was a lot of fun to write. Turning Ahsoka to the dark side is not that easy, because I don't think she really would, so I wanted to really manipulate it and have that come back to bite Vader. You know, Sidious and Vader kind of toying with each other. It was a fun story to write. Hope you had fun listening, and I'll see you in the next video.